Welcome to my life.
Mr. Constantine, I saw
I
you.
remember.
And then I saw you at the...
Regular kismet.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, if that'd be okay.
I'm not really in the talking mood right now.
Well, maybe you could just listen then. Please.
Always a catch.
My sister was murdered yesterday.
Sorry to hear.
Thanks. She was a patient at Ravenscar. She jumped off the roof.
Thought you said she was murdered.
Yeah, well, Isabel wouldn't have taken her own life.
Yeah, what kind of mental patient kills herself? That's just crazy.
Look, I've heard your name around the precinct. I know the circles you travel in, the occult, demonology, exorcisms.
บอกรหัสมา
You can come out now, Lieutenant. She's one of us.
No, but seriously, really, buddy, friend, pal, you gotta trust me.
Oh, this is bad.
The probability of us achieving victory here today is only 3%. That's with me rounding up.
You hear that? Those are runaway numbers.
If we run, there'll be no one left to protect the city. Stand and fight or die. You make the choice.
What? What?
And I finally found the answers in this book, Mythical Creatures.
Welcome everyone. I'm trying to figure out what this new setup is. It's weird. Like, why do I have all this weird stuff in my StreamYard comments thing that's blocking me from seeing anything else? Oh, it's okay. Let me just see if I can fix this. That's why I was playing a whole bunch of those clips, because hey, yo, let's see if that shows up and gets past this little. No, what is this? Apologies. Yeah. Hey, let me know in the chat if you guys can see my post just there now. Because yeah, it's coming up on stream, right? But there's a whole bunch of this text here that shouldn't be here normally. Is it because it's beta or what the hell? Anyway, welcome to another episode of, what is this? It's color flooding and chatterings, where I chatter and it rings out to the entire internet, hopefully, on your social medias and in your groups about, groups for indie comics, because that's where, I like to engage with people with what we're doing. And we're creating indie comics, of course. Today, I'm doing some color flooding. I had to, this one here, actually. It's like that one I got to fix. But we're doing this one. And also Howler. I'm going to be doing some of this. I might start with this because this is a bit more easier. As you can see here, this is a house in Maritime Beach in Auckland, which is kind of like a coastal suburb, right? And where we've set our story for Howler. And you've got this dude spying on his binoculars on a couple in the car, and this is proceeds from this one here. So there we go. So there's this page before it. A young couple making out. Okay, so, and carries on. So, and that's from this series here, Howler. And we haven't released number one because, as you can see, I'm coloring, right? So I'm this is colored by Andrade Luis, and the artist who is also the artist. And we've also got a where is it? A wraparound cover which he's colored. Which basically, he's colored already, and we're gonna like put it on as like a second option. I'm also going to get someone to come in and do a variant cover, because I want to put up the maximum covers I want to put out for our comics going forward is about 4. And the reason that with that is because, sure, we want people to have the option of buying, limited release covers, like about 25 or 50. And so they're the only ones who, whoever buys them is the one who gets them right. Or if they don't sell, we might offer them next time on the, issue 2 or 3. But it's just limited to only a handful of variants. Now, the other thing I've been thinking about this week is that we'll release a exclusive cover just for Kickstarter backers. And I know people say exclusive, and then they put on their eBay, then they put on their friggin' on Instagram, or actually print it out to shops, as I found out some people have been doing. Isn't that suckful? Like, you've got these big names, they've got deals with shops and stuff, so they go onto Kickstarter and they put their comics in Kickstarter, and they say this is exclusive to Kickstarter. So you pay $60, $100 or whatever it is for that cover, and then they just take that same cover and they put it in the comic shops, and you go, well, what's the point of me backing that cover if that's the situation? So, because I like variant covers, I like it. I'll buy for the art, right? Because I know a lot of times interior art is always going to be different when it comes to variant covers. It's different from from the cover art, because of course we as artists, comic creators, we love to offer people, kind of like a different choice. There it is. So it's after. Then I already have that open, and so because of we like to see more and more of something, especially in print, and especially if it's good art. And I just think that, like, because of that, I think that there's you can buy a variant cover. Whoops, what did I do that for? A variant cover, and then also, buy a normal cover, because you got a regular cover. But of course, there's that whole idea that, like, okay, people will buy covers for the art, right? For the cover art. I mean, they'll buy the comic for the cover art. Because comics is about art, right? Otherwise, we'd all be reading novels, right? And storybooks and picture books and stuff like that. Now, something that's been talked about a bit, and at the moment with comics, especially Kickstarter comics, is I saw it come up on this week in the last couple of days, and I just saw it, on I think it was David Brink or Dave Brink who brought it up on, also shared it on Twitter, that the art inside indie comics on Kickstarter isn't that good, because a lot of times there's the idea of bait and switch, and bait and switch comes from sales, like retail and stuff like that. So I've been in retail, oh gosh, for about 15 years of my life, right? And from like going all the way back to like 99 maybe, and then all the way up to about 2009, or maybe late 2008, before I was forced out of work due to my car accident and back injuries. So what bait and switch is, when you go to this store and they basically show you this one product, and then when you get it home, you find out it's another product, right? It's kind of that sort of thing. It's like they go, oh yeah, this is what you're going, and then when they get you up, they talk you up, and what you went in for wasn't what you were after, right? And so it's kind of a sneaky thing. And indie comics kind of is that way with Kickstarter, because a lot of people don't put their interior art as the main cover, right? Cover A. And one thing that we've done always, and you could say, well, you've only put out one comic, but I'm talking about the company of the publisher that I'm with. What they've done always has been about putting out cover A is always the interior artist's work. So when you go to buy when you see the A cover, that's the artwork inside. Now, then that's up to you to decide, well, is that the artwork that, if that's what, you want to get, because then you don't have any reason to complain later if you get the artwork and go, oh, this is crap, man. What the hell? However, I think that comes from there, so that's a different color. So, however, if your best cover is cover A, and it doesn't belong to the interior artist's art, then you're going to feel ripped off, and that's kind of sad, because and especially in the comics, you don't want to feel ripped off, especially if you're doing crowdfunding. That's one of the things that I'm really adamant about, people going away with our stuff and not feeling like they've been ripped off. And if it's going to take me a year to put a comic out, then I'll do that, because I want to. I'd rather have people happy with the product, and I'm talking about like not them already paid for it. I'm talking after, right? I mean, I'm talking about before, right? So before I actually put the comic out, I want it finished, so that when you do pay for it and you receive it as a backer after looking at it and supporting them on Kickstarter, right? This is where we are at. We're not anywhere else. We're just on Kickstarter, right? I thought about going to Indiegogo, but then I realized that they don't have a good track record with supporting people, and not only supporting people, but actually how they support people. I'd rather just have it where I know there's all the views are there, and that there's enough eyes there. And Kickstarter has the most eyes when it comes to crowdfunding. Some people don't like their way, but hey, you can choose to go do whatever you want. It's like watching an AEW or WWE. If you don't like WWE, go watch something else. If you don't like AEW, go watch WWE. For me, I like the AEW. I like watching was that New Japan Pro Wrestling? Yeah, NJPW, something like that. I like watching CZW, which is a combat zone, which is hardcore, right? Death wrestling. Was it deathmatch wrestling? Sorry, I shouldn't say death wrestling. Or even like UK stuff, right? There's some really cool stuff out there, and it's the same with like indie comics, right? There's so many creators out there. It's probably about a couple 100,000, right? If not, and I'm talking about just in comics, not manga, right? Not manhwa, not manhua. Just talking about comics. So there's quite a lot of creators out there. So you got a lot of choice. And then the other thing is that there's always new creators coming up. And now with AI, there's a lot of shit out there. Excuse me, like part of my language. And that's also happening in manga as well. There's a lot of rubbish in manga as well that's coming through the AI stuff. And not even just manga, games are now coming. People are using AI images, and the worst of that is actually using real people's faces on them as characters. And which kind of brings me, and I don't want to talk about this right now, but which kind of brings me to this new law about deep fakes and stuff that's come out of Denmark. Now, let me just find this little, is it that one? Because we're going to continue with our series on internet and art and stuff, and of course with deep fakes. If I can find this one I'm looking for, where's my deep fakes thing? No. So that one is a news item, and also there's Apple's also got a thing going on. Sheesh, where'd you go, dude? I had it saved and everything, and now I can't even see it on my list here. Oh, well, might have to go and find it across from Facebook. But yeah, well, we'll get back to that soon. But yeah, so with people having the ability to use AI for basically everything, and I had a little debate. I looked up Plunge Comics on Grok, and then Grok just got into conversation with me about, hey, would you like some help creating comics? I went like, no, no, thank you. Like creating stories and stuff. I said, no way. I'm jealous of my creativity. I do not want anything to influence it. I don't even get drunk or partake or whatever in drugs when I'm doing my artwork. I just don't want even that influencing me with my writing or anything like that, because I find that anything like that is just it just takes away from what I am and what I can class as myself. So if you're creating comics and using AI, then well, that's not you, is it? It's not something you can copyright. It's not something that you can call your own. It's the same thing with games. If you're using AI in games, it's not you that's coming up with it. Sure, you can go, oh, this is my plot line, do this and do that. Yeah, sure, you can do that. But it's not yours, because in the end, what it's going to give you is what everybody else in the entire universe known to our human history has come up with, has created, has worked hard on. And what AI does then is basically goes through. Let me see, what color did I use on that? I use this one here for the leaves. So I'll try to keep the leaves the same color. Or did my grass go that color? Which means I have to make my grass a different color, a shade darker. Yeah, my grass is going to have to go a shade darker here. That's way too gross. The darkness it's. Where is my screen choice? Hold on. weird. Oh, hold on. I think I need to reboot my driver. It always often happens. I forget to reboot a darn thing because I have it off, and then I take the screen off and I put the screen back on because I'm using multi-screen. So sometimes it doesn't tell me where. Like I'm trying to find the color screen. There it is. Now it's come up. It wasn't coming up before because driver. Okay, so I wonder if that might be a better green. Let's try this. So you can see here, right? It's like very muddy green. There we go. Nice and bright. And now I can go and use this other leaf that this color that I use for the leaves here. One thing, like just looking at this this palm tree, it's kind of like a native tree. So a couple of weeks ago, I know I'm jumping between that, but I'll forget if I don't talk about this. We actually had a art trial here, like a sculpture in the garden type thing. It's huge, like tons of artists, like around about 100 artists who make sculptures, right? But and out of brass, ceramics, metal, wood, stone. We had a kind of like an open day in a place here called I've forgotten the name of it, but I'll remember soon. And so actually let's go like this. So with that day we went out and saw them, and what happened was, like, I went with my parents and my sister and brother and my nephew, and Mom took us out for breakfast, like a brunch type thing. It was a Mother's Day thing, I think, if I remember right. Yeah, it was Mother's Day. So it must have been May 10th that weekend. And so we all went out, got photos taken with all these sculptures, and as a family. And it's the last time we actually did that. And the one after that was my birthday, I think. But yeah, we had fun. And the reason I mentioned that is because this was there. All these trees were there because these are native trees, right? So it was a big, huge, kind of like a park, like a sculpture park. And so all these trees were there. And what happened was, like, one of these things was like flowering. And they had these little bulbous, like size of kind of like half the size of a golf ball. And they have these seeds, right? So, and I'll come back and put grass on there. And so they have these large seeds, half of a golf ball size, and they are orange and yellowy orange, and that's kind of like their fruit flower thing, And this is like a whole range of like the type of that plant, and they have all types of this in that same range, right? This thing. And so one of them, I was on the way back, like about 200 meters up from the cafe, because you do this loop kind of thing. And from this, so coming back, there was this one, one of these anyway, and they had on the ground all the seeds that have come off, and they were drying out. And I was like, oh man, I want to learn. I'm going to try to grow this, because as you know, I have like I've mentioned this before. I have a balcony garden, right? So I have like a very small, like, balcony, which is right about maybe about 4 meters by a meter. And so what that allows me to have some, planters on there, grow some vegetables or herbs. And at the moment I'm growing potatoes, right? And raspberries, which actually, raspberries fruiting. And so mint and stuff like that, and flowers. So I decided that I'll grab one of these. And there was these people there watching me, right? Pick this one up from the ground, like, because there's like 50 to 100 there on the ground. So I just looked around, found one that was almost kind of, on the way to drying out. So there was still a bit of orange, so you could tell what it was. And I picked it up, put it in my pocket, and I came home with it, And so it's been sitting there drying at the moment on my balcony on a desk, well, on the shelf. And so I'm waiting for summer because that's when they say you got to plant it. And then I can, grow this new plant. And so that's what, I would love to see how well I can grow this thing just on my balcony, right? And have it really small. And these things, they cost a lot of money, right? To buy brand new. Like, I mean, buy a small plant, it's like about 30, 40, and if they get bigger, you're looking about $1,000 to $2,000 if you're like growing, that size, because people do grow them this size as at nurseries, and then they replant, sell them, and people plant them at their new home, right? So like you just had bought a new house, or you just made a house, from the ground up, whatever, built a house. And so because of that, you need, it's going to be just grass. And so people start planting flowers and all that, but then you can also plant your native, trees and brush. Yeah, bushes, right? Bushes. And so with that, it gets costly. I remember I actually bought 2 of them for my little ones. It was about $5 each at that time, and now they grew up to like about this big at my parents' home. And man, my dad does not like me for it, because what happened was like they grew it over this part of the house, right? Like in this area here. And so there's a little area here that goes to the back of the house, and then there's a porch, right? And what happened was this thing went all on, like, it's really tall now. So the leaves of this thing, like because they fall off, like this is the part that falls off. It's not like little bits like this, and they might fall off as well, but they fall off all the time, and they, they fall on the friggin' roof because it's so close to the roof. And this is like about 20 years later, right? 20, maybe 30 years later now. I think it was 97. I gave them one, and then I gave them another one because I moved house, because I was going, I had in a little planter for myself, and then I moved house. I was like, oh, Dad, can you plant this in the backyard? So now they have these 2 huge palm trees, one in the front and one in the back, which is basically, is a problem. It's cost them a lot of money to try to get people in to hack these things off, these big, huge palm leaves off. They fall on the roof. Otherwise, it's annoying, or it's, because it's bent down over the roof, so it scratches the tin roof. It's annoying, right? My dad said, "You cost me $1,000," and I said, "Well, I didn't know I was going to do that, But yeah, but it looks great. But that's the thing about planting stuff. If you don't know how big it's going to get, it can cost quite a bit to remove it and stuff, or take care of it. Okay, so yeah, I was talking about the whole, the David Brink indie comics thing, right? So let's go back there, do this, palm leaves, and yeah, I mean, I'm always, like I said, having good art covers, good cover art or variant cover art, and paying somebody to do that, it can really help your comic reach more, more customers, more backers, right? But if you do it as cover A with somebody, with the art that isn't the same as the interior art, yeah, people will feel cheated, and that's not something you want to leave. You never want to leave your backers with a bad taste in their mouth about your product. It's just like shopping, right? You don't want to leave your customers feeling bad when they leave the store. And like I said, I've been in sales for a long time, and I even own my own comic shop. So, for about 18 months or so. So I know that side of things as well, the comic business as well. Now, indie comics itself, there there are so many different art styles out there around the world, and a lot of people get hung up on everything has to be like, you know, has to be like American or US comic style, right? The superhero comic style. Big muscular man, sexy woman, straight off the, catwalk type looking thing, or Mr. Universe, or Mr. Olympia, bodybuilding things, because that's where they originally came from, right? The art style. Some of the artwork, I think it was Kirby or others, basically used, Muscle Men magazines to do that. I bet you seen images of where they actually exactly which magazine they used or who it was that was in that they profiled, used references, right? So it's kind of trying to figure out here if this if the artist put another plant here behind it. So I think that might be the case because he's got leaves going up this way. So maybe there is something else here. So I might have to go back there and change that. What I'm doing here with the colors. But this other one, he's fine. So yeah, and I posted, I commented on it and said, yeah, we always, put cover A as the interior art, because that not only do you get to see the artist who's doing the artwork inside, you get his art, on his own comic book, right? But you also get to see what to expect when you open the comic book. In the past, because we live here in New Zealand, right? It's far away from the US, and we don't, basically the other side of the world. We never know who, by just looking at the artwork and whether that's the artwork of the artist inside, because we don't know. This I'm talking about, like in the 90s when I used to buy comics, every week kind of thing. Right, where I wasn't that until, at 18 years old, I didn't know much about the comic business, right? Or 17 years old. So it was just like whatever you saw was like, oh, that's the guy that did the inside. You didn't even have a clue that the artist was done by art on the cover was done by somebody else at all. There's no understanding of that, no comprehension of that, because at that time you just bought whatever was there and you go, oh yeah, this is art by the guy inside, right? And it wouldn't be like later until you realize, well, that's a newsprint, right? Well, not, it's a newsprint, no, newsstand cover, and there's a Mark's Jewelers and all that, right? All the stuff that you learn later when you, find out more about the comic business. And the other thing is, a lot of people nowadays on, I guess in the sense of like Kickstarter and stuff, they don't see it as a business. And so what they see it as, like, this is the comic I'm going to release and that's it. I'm going to have my backers and that's it. I'm going to think, they don't think of it how and what the backers expect, because they're the customers, right? So if you have a retail business and if your customer gets upset and it's for legit reasons, you're in trouble, right? If you have a brick and mortar business and your customer gets upset and they feel ripped off or whatever, they can actually take you to the Commerce Commission, or they can even get, law involved, right? And they can haul you up before the courts, depending on how far you go with it, if you are, if you're contesting it all the way or not. And so a lot of times, people are more scared of customers because of that. You're like, you can't just do whatever you want in business. And even like, so much so that it's a protection for you as well, that like with the law around business is that if you're, if customers come and do, start to lie or, try to say defame you or something, you're protected by the same, law. And you can go, well, hold on, this is what happened, and I'm gonna show you what exactly happened, and so on. And and that's like, like having to explain to a customer, hey, this book is not for children, you shouldn't buy this. And then, and then you explain to them, that so they're aware that, it's such and such book. And if the guardian or the parent is there goes, yeah, that's fine, that's okay, then you go, well, that's okay then. But if they get that book home and they come back and go, yeah, well, this was this, and I go, did we not just discuss that this book wasn't for you? I mean, for children. And this is the rating that it's here. It shows you. And I asked you who it was for, right? So that sort of thing. So, however, in crowdfunding, you don't have that sort of back support, right? You don't have that legal thing there. And so you can have cowboys, just like in business, right? In construction, they call them cowboys, right? People who come in, charge you, say this much, and then they overcharge you, and then they underdo the job, or they don't put the right stuff in, or they put cheaper material in, and then your house floods out. We've had a lot of this in the past here in New Zealand. There was like huge cases because like entire apartment buildings, had that happen. So there is protection there, in the real world, but there isn't protection there on the online world when it comes to crowdfunding. And I hope that changes. Because what it will do is drive out cowboys, right? Just like the laws did. And then people had to go, well, I don't want to spend hundreds of $1,000s going to court for the shoddy job that I did. It's better to just do a good job right from the start, right? Of course, you're going to have one or two who try to get away with stuff like that. But, in the long run, even other, construction builders, whatever, we're like, yeah, we need these people out. We really need these people out. And this is where I'm at the moment when it comes to crowdfunding. It's like when you're working so hard and people are out there being cowboys, it really hurts everybody, right? And so what's that's been doing, it's been driving backers off crowdfunding altogether, right? I've heard people in live streams say this, that people who have backed and haven't got received their thing will never go back to backing. They've told them themselves in the real world. So as we as people who use crowdfunding, we need to be more honest and upfront about what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. Like me, I don't do art, right? Because I know that I'm not a good artist. And I mean like illustration. I'm not a good illustrator. I haven't done proper illustration work for probably since I injured my arm way back in '94. Prior to that, I'd be drawing every day, right? Any moment I had, I'd be like, just sitting there with a pad and drawing. But ever since then, I've just haven't, because it's just, but I'll pick up a pen and paper I don't pick up a pen and paper, I'll pick up this tablet, whatever, and start trying to come up with some logos or designs or mock up some stuff, and then hand that over, right, to my artist to do the rest. Because at the end of the day, you want to put your best foot forward. And I learned that the hard way is that if you don't put your best foot forward, and even have to pay for that yourself, you can actually harm what you're creating, right? What you're trying to build as an artist, as a creative person. Because with me, I work in multidisciplined arts, right? So sculpture, comics, and soon I'm going back to writing, for gaming, right? So I'm in discussions right now, working on another game script. And so that's, it's basically a lot of work. And if I'm out there saying, hey, I'm such and such, and I don't, prove that I'm such and such, then people out there are going to go, well, yo, you're just lying to us. Talking about which, right? Just got reminded. There's an Indian guy called a Mudaha, right? Some ordinary gamers thing. You might have seen the fallout from that recently online, where it's just been a big, huge expose on him. How he's been a dropout from like 3 months into his engineering course, and he calls himself an engineer, right? An IT engineer, and he calls, all the stuff like but he basically hasn't done anything since, anything like that since he dropped out of school. So, but he's out there going, he went to college, he did this. He's a Canadian, right? And he did this and he did that. But now there's a huge expose about how for the last decade since he's been on YouTube, that he's been lying about who he really is, allegedly, right? According to, and it seems to be the way to go, but allegedly, right? So, a lot of people, because it's online, a lot of people want to show that they're more than who they are, right? And it's easy to pretend to be something else online. Really, it is. I mean, we all, right now you're seeing, excuse me, apologies. I need a drink. Got the cobwebs. Just take a quick little, if I can find my mouse, there it is. Quick little break to grab a drink. And we'll be back.
Everyone I know is gonna die. Not my fucking problem. Is that all you got? Is that what you said when your world went to shit? Come again? Yeah, I heard all about you. And you screwed up everything. You should be thanking me for pulling you out of that bed you shit in. Oh, you backstabbing son of a bitch! Are you ready to be calm now?
Hope that wasn't too brutal for you guys. Haven't played that one for a while. But I did enjoy that movie, I must say. Wolverine, Deadpool, classic. Probably the last good movie. I would love to see a X Factor movie. It'd be really cool. With Deadpool. The X Factor series, the original. It would be cool to see that as done as a movie with Ryan, again, in charge. Where was I before my throat went all weird? Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so with crowdfunding, I think having so many cowboys out there, and every week, we find out there's somebody else that's like late, and that's like years late, and it just like run off with the money and stuff. Basically, it's not cool. But the other side of that is a lot of people promise too much, and they realize they can't deliver. And that's why, like I was saying at the start there, that we're only gonna put out like 4 covers maximum. I've been working on the Incredible #2. All the artwork, all the colors, everything's been done. I just need to turn it to a PDF and send it for a final review. Get my artist friend Sevens to have a read through with a fine toothbrush, with a comb, or tooth comb? Yeah, fine tooth comb. And, just to make sure that it is, it's ready for print, that everything's where it is, there's no mistakes, and I'll go over it again myself, and then I'll send it out again after that, and just make sure the grammar's, right, there's no spelling mistakes and all that. all the cards are done as well. So there's about 4 cards, which is done by Joachim. And no, this is the wrong card. And so yeah, the cards are done. I got to do the spell check. I sent it across to Tomas, and he did the spell check on that and said that I had a couple of errors. So I got to fix that, and then we can set up the Kickstarter for that. Hopefully, we get more backers this time than for issue 1, because hopefully more people are aware of what we're doing, and that'll, and what we're creating, right? Because it's a full color, all ages comic book. Because I want to get kids reading again, reading comics books again, right? I want to be able to provide comics that parents can sit down with their kids and read with them. And that was the whole point of the Incredible. You've got a female superhero, but you also have her partner who's who's a male. So it's not like an imbalanced book where it's all about female empowerment and all that. But it's basically, it's a book that a guy could, a young boy could read, being interested in it, and a young girl could read at the same time, be interested in it. So the cards that we did for that is by artist Joachim Hagstrom, and he's been he's been working on Zeolandia, right? Which is what I'm named after, right? I started naming myself after Monkey King of Zeolandia. So I said to him last week, I said, hey man, I've been doing this whole thing with the Monkey King of Zeolandia online. So, and I've been thinking about actually having a character in the book who's this this jester type character, and it'll be cool to have a real design character. I mean, like a fictional character actually in the comic book based on that. And I sent him some photos or images of the animal or the monkey that I actually want to be, do the self-insert of. But this is all like a meme thing, right? Well, what people call mematics. So that, it's like going from the online world onto actually print. And so it'll be quite cool. I thought it'll be a good idea because it's like, everybody wants to see them as this great character or some super human being. I'm like, nah, I'm just a monkey, right? Silly monkey. And so I could get to play this, create this whole story around this meme. And because, I mentioned it to you guys when the last couple of streams about that. And so then I went, like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it serious, right? And so Joachim's doing that right now, is like coming up with designs on that. I actually, and the thing is that I used one of the monkeys that we used in another story for statues as gateway entrances to this other this village, and I designed that like about 3 years ago or something like that. And so we actually have that in place. But then I like that because I'd never heard of these monkeys, and then because I was doing the research, right? And so when I decided to use that in that story, I learned a bit about them and what they look like, and I was like, oh, it's pretty cool, interesting looking characters, right? And so so it's pretty, it would be pretty cool to see it once it's when he's finished the artwork on that. and then we'll use it as like instead of my M, which is my artist print, whatever you want to call it, like logo. It'll be that on here because I just thought it was funny, not to take yourself seriously, because I think a lot of people take themselves way too seriously in life, and it's just, I don't know, sometimes this gets too stressful, right? When you take yourself too seriously, it just becomes stressful. I used to wake up, like when I was stressing out, like I just wake up and go, it's all a joke. Everything's a joke. It's a joke. Just see it as a joke. Because yeah, sure, it's life is serious and all that, but don't let it get to you to where you are not enjoying it. Because I've been through moments where I've not enjoyed life, and it's caused me a lot of, not good things. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to chill, and when you stress out, make sure, that you got people around you, or that you you got things in place that make you chill out. And I don't mean like alcohol, drugs, like that. I just mean like mentally, you know when you're like losing it, and to be aware of your environment and what you're putting yourself through, and try to remove yourself from that situation mentally. And that's all the things, a lot, mental preparation for, when you're engaging with people, that you already have those things and ideas and, mentally in place, how to get yourself out of trouble. It's like when you're in boxing ring, right? Like if they do the uppercut, you got to swing your head out of the way, right? You don't just stay there, take the hit, right? You move, and that's basically what I'm talking about. Like if when you get stressed out, you got to know what your next move is, so that it doesn't overtake you. Now, it's a weird sort of. It's got to be put back. Do that. No, it's not wrong. I think. Yeah, there's. So then, it's like nobody will notice it because it's so far away, but I'm like, I will notice it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just wood. It's like damage on the wood, so I'm just going to remove that. Just blank it out. This doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Sure, my artist knows exactly where it's going. I just don't know where it's going myself. And it's like, so, yeah, it's like nothing really. You really look at it, but just nothing. You might have actually wanted to rub it out or something, like erase it, and you forgot. Like, whatever. I might just clean it out myself later. I mean, erase it myself. I shouldn't say clean it out. Erase it myself. Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Here. Just kind of like put a bit of divide between the colors here. It's too green, right? So it's like, yeah, that's right. The bricks. Do you might make it wood? So it looks like it's just wood. This is like, so timber. It's too close to the screen color. And you can fix it up. Yeah, that's better. Right, so give some marigolds. Orange. 6 colored pictures all in a row. Marigold. That's from Nirvana, by the way. If I remember right, I think it's from In Utero, or is it from Bleach? It might be from In Utero. I'm really not sure what is with this. This whole new setup here. It's really weird because they've said they've changed things around, but and I'm talking about StreamYard. I'm not complaining about StreamYard. Just they've changed things around so it doesn't work the way I'm used to, and it's like they've heard from they've heard people talk about it, but they've never. I don't know if they're going to fix anything that they didn't like return to what they had set up for that, like what's already good working for them. Go back to what was working and change what wasn't working. And I think that's a lot of times the codes are so difficult, right? I've learned when I started writing and editing gaming scripts and looked at the codes and stuff, and I was like, wow, man, this is just another universe. And because I don't come from that sort of background, right? I'm not a nerd when it comes to computers, but I'm a geek. It's like I know how to use this, and that's enough for me, right? Not knowing how to pull it apart and put this here, put that there, or how codes work. But I did learn a bit about using Atom and stuff like that, which is a text writer, text app. So now I can go into the open up a text file off the code for the game, and I'm not doing like all the weird, whatever, but I mean like the standard. There's a type of file that you can open up if they have it, if they use that, I can work with that. Like I can go and change the character's name, and so on. But the other stuff, I have no idea. So that's with you. Who's all trying to it's like all of a sudden everybody wants to message me. All right, where's sound off? All right. Yeah, I think that's cool. Ooh. Put the marigolds on the after the Nirvana. 6 colored pictures. Man, I haven't had this song in so long. Just crazy. I remember when that came out, it was I just love that song. It's just the lyrics are pretty cool for that. She says, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So just realized something. Here's where I need to do my magic trick. Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah, I can. So, yeah, mark up. Needs to be black. Plug. Black. Black. Yeah. And I need, where's my stabilization 0. Yeah. Just for speed. Yeah. And here's my none the wiser. Sixpence, none the wiser. As I say. Of course, you guys are seeing me do this, so you know it's there. Oops. There you go. Fixed. It's because it is what it is. As I say. Right. Now, let's go fix this one. I mean, fix this one. Color this one. I colored like 10 hours straight the other day. On Monday, I think it was like I was supposed to do an interview with Steve about Valley of the Kings on Sunday. No, I think it was Saturday. No, it was Sunday. It was Sunday because that's the day I usually do it. New Zealand Day, Sunday, US Day, you know, Northern Hemisphere, Europe, and all that would be Saturday. So what happened was like it's cold here, right? We're in the middle of winter, and my throat wasn't really that great. It's not really great right now either because we've still got a bit of a sniffles and stuff. And I was like, this isn't going to work. I can't, you know, I'm going to be annoyed because my throat's going to be grumbling and stuff. And I don't like, you know, I like to come on and be the top of my game, as I say, you know, give it my all. And I didn't feel like I was able to. And then, so I switched to doing it on Monday, and Steve was all good with it. And then I realized, and then next thing I know, there's a meeting. So it ended up being, and so I still had planned to do that, do this, you know, afterwards, which is Monday, Sunday, right? Monday for me, Sunday for the Northern Hemisphere. And so turned out the meeting went for 5 hours. So basically 5 hours of talking back and forth, and I was exhausted. So I got in touch with Steve again. I said, hey man, yeah, we've got to postpone, dude. Can we do it next week? And he's like, no, next week's my birthday, and won't be able to do that. I said, okay, well, let's leave for another time in the future. And that's what we're going to do with that. We're going to leave for another time in the future. But like we had a major meeting, which is going to, we'll talk more about it in about 3 months' time. Once we figure out everything's kosher, as I say, and then be able to make it public. But yeah, it was, man. And so that threw out my equilibrium, right? For my time, okay to talk and okay to do streams and all this. But like during that meeting, so I'd already been doing 5 hours of coloring. And so while we're doing the meeting, I'm still coloring and listening and talking. And so I was able to get this page done, most of this page done, right? And some other pages done as well, page done. Because it's meant like, utilizing the time, because I like multitask all the time, because that just means I'm not wasting the time that I'm up. So what happened was, like on Sunday, Monday New Zealand time, I basically ended up like sleeping the entire day, like, because straight after that, because I was up for about 10 hours, and whatever else, 10 hours coloring, and then prior to that, I was still, doing other stuff, writing and whatever. And so it threw my whole system off kilter for the last 3 days. And today's Wednesday, last 2 days. So man, like I was just not able to concentrate on anything. And so I ended up just lying there watching anime and posting some stuff. And my wrist was hurting like hell. And so, you can imagine, like, already a wrist injury. So continuously doing, this for 10 hours straight, on and off. But, and then like, because I sleep on my right hand side, so you're sleeping on your arm, right? And that sort of screwed that up. And so I went like, oh no, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just gonna like just chill, make it my weekend, right? Because I work through weekends, so might as well make Monday, Tuesday my weekend, and today's Wednesday. And then get my equilibrium back up, get my sleeping habits back up. So I'm back to now daytime hours, which I'm really happy for. Which usually I can work night and then do day, like go to sleep around about 5 a.m. or something, because I love working with like the least noise, right? I don't even have music on sometimes when I'm working, but that's when I'm writing and stuff. But when I'm doing this, I might just put on some anime or or some YouTube, because this doesn't take that much concentration, which is good if you're like if you're doing comics and you're not an artist. This is good. This is a good thing to do, right? To help get your own work in color, right? It's because, and do it cheaply, because it means you're doing it yourself. You're not having to pay someone to do it, by lowering the outgoings, financial outgoings. Because by doing this, you're actually saving yourself whatever else, and then you can just get, like I said before, just get a colorist to finish it, right? To render it, as they say. Yeah, it's the right term for it, rendering. Just to go over with the tones and stuff and finalize the, what you want it to look like, like shades and all that, like light in this, so there's sunlight coming onto this, so there's a bit of light and there's darker areas. Yeah. And that, the whole idea, not only is this good for you mentally, because while you're doing this, you can, if you're a writer, you can start thinking about plots and start thinking about what stories you want to write, where you want your plot, those stories to go. And then also, because you're doing that, it's actually mentally it's good for you because it just makes think through ideas rather than just be like on the go, trying to come up with something, and that can really stress you out. So if you got something like this, just coloring, it's good because it just takes you ahead of, gives your brain a bit of rest, and you're able to, use another side of your brain that you don't have to worry about. I mean, where you're concentrating hard out on stuff. So yeah, if you are a writer, I suggest doing this sort of stuff to help yourself financially, right? To lower your outgoings, and also, yeah, to actually help you be more creative as well. I mean, the job itself, like coloring, isn't that, what you say, hard, right? Like this sort of stuff, like just the filling work. But the rendering part of it's a bit more, intelligent work. Knowing what areas to shade, what areas not to shade, how much to, shade, or where the light's coming from, what to leave in, what to leave out. Whereas now I'm just like, okay, choose this, put that there, that's all. Choose this, drop this paint in here, select that, deselect that, easy stuff. But by doing that, it's actually it's going to, make your comic look better. Just them being a black and white comic, right? As you can see. And the other thing here is because the shading's going to come from, like, the dark areas are going to come from the color, the rendering itself. There isn't that much here, and so it's allowing, the artist to come in. Louise will be going in here and coloring this himself because he's the one who's doing all the interior colors. I'm just doing the exterior ones. I'll show you one of the exterior ones so you guys can see. Or interior ones, I say. You can see his work on this, on the interiors, and bring you up. There you go. And there it is. Right, so this is what I mean, like dark colors, light, kind of like shades. Here you go, look at the eye. Right, so you got dark and shades it up there. This is what I'm talking about when you get the render and all that. Yeah. But I don't have to do that. So I get to do the exteriors and just do the flatting and just leave them to do. That's, a bit more intense work, I'd say. Now, this one can just go like this. Might put in some lights there, the grays. I mean, this sort of color in here somewhere just to get a bit more difference in the hues and the tones. was going to look up. Oh yeah. So let me just save this and I'll bring up this little video clip. 9-minute or 10-minute video. Where? We've been talking about, we've been talking about the whole UK internet law, right? So I think this is the one. Like, there's a whole bunch I've got here, little clips, but I'm going to find out which one's the more recent one, right? Oh, this guy's loud. Hold on, my bad. It's either that really loud. It's either that or my headphones are really loud. But here we go. So get rid of that. Bring in this. Bring this via clip. Sharing this screen. Starting other screen. And it's this one here. So this gentleman here from the UK, so he should know what he's talking about because it's happening in this country, hopefully. There it is. There we go. Okay. Oh, goodness. That silly thing usually does with the screen. All right. Here we go. So actually, I'm going to get the link for this for you guys because we'll only watch a little bit of it, but you guys can watch the rest of this later. And there's the link and the gentleman's name.
You guys have heard about this new piece of legislation called the Online Safety Act, pushed through Parliament by the Conservative government in 2023 and brought into effect a few days ago. The petition now has over 400,000 signatures. I urge you guys to sign it, even though it is not going to do anything. And I'm not going to insult you guys by wasting your time going over this response. They just say they have no plans to repeal this act. I do believe this is the beginning of internet censorship. And unlike what the government would like you to believe, that this is about protecting children and child safety, it's not. This is censorship. I woke up one day and I was unable to view Reddit. I was unable to view certain things on Twitter. Xbox has now rolled out age verification in order to be compliant with the new Ofcom rules. Ofcom are the regulators in charge of this, and they've been given a lot of power. They've been given too much power, and a lot of people believe this is government overreach. I agree. But the last straw for me was the fact that a Labour MP was talking about banning VPNs. Now, am I encouraging you, my viewers, to use a VPN to circumvent these rules? Absolutely not, because it's the law, and I encourage you all to follow the law and not break the law. But if they were to ban VPNs, we would be no different to China. Fact, no different to China. In this video, guys, we're going to break down everything you need to know. Why Apple and Wikipedia have court cases with the UK government. Why WhatsApp and Signal might end up pulling out of the UK. Because this new legislation is a threat to end-to-end encryption. I'm going to explain why that is the case. How talking about politics and immigration comes under the censorship law. Why the internet as we know it in this country could be over, and also why the government clearly doesn't care about your privacy and your data. So leave a like on the video, guys. Thank you very much. Let's get that out of the way. I'm sure all of you guys have heard of a man called Nigel Farage. Now, rightly so, he is against this online safety bill, and he's publicly spoken out about it. Now, Peter Carl, who is the Secretary of State for Technology, who's been going around trying to defend this nonsense, he responded to Nigel Farage, and he's received quite a lot of backlash for comparing him to Jimmy Savile, saying that because he's against this bill, he's okay with people like Jimmy Savile. If you don't know who Jimmy Savile is, look him up. Serial
You're going to stick to the fact that you said that.
Yeah, so I am going to be covering Jimmy Savile, who was a BBC predator that they all knew about and they're protected on the Plunge cast channel. I've got like a whole bunch of stuff lined up to talk about him in the future. I was going to talk about him earlier this year, but I took a three-month hiatus, right? Because I was really, wasn't feeling good, and then also was pretty annoyed. So for a while there was StreamYard and stuff, and other stuff. So, but let it be known, like Jimmy Savile is a horrible, horrible human being, or was, and they hid his crimes against children for, I think it was over 20 years. And this is the BBC. This is the politicians. They protected him like he was like their golden child, right? Or the golden calf. If you know the reference, you know the reference. But so, you know, to compare someone wanting to say, hey, we don't want censorship to that, oh, you got to be some a-hole.
Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side.
Nigel Farage is on the side of turning the clock back to the time when strange adults, strangers, can get in touch via messaging apps with children. We have now asked them age verify the age in which people...
These people don't care about children. They really don't. These are the same people, and I've talked about the grooming gangs, so I'm like, yeah, on the Plunge channel, so I'm going to keep that there. But this is where they say one thing, but they actually in reality do another thing. So kind of goes along with what I'm saying with the bait and switch, right? With comics and stuff. And, you know, and retail and sales and stuff. So a lot of times politicians have this real protect the family, protect the children, but they really don't care about children or families, because if they did, then they'll be harsher on criminals who abuse children and harm children, right? Or families, right? A lot of these people actually have those sort of people, those criminals, in their own parties. They have them in the actual police, right? They have them in their own government. Like I said, with Jimmy, they protected Jimmy for decades, right? While he harmed hundreds of kids. The most recent one was like the whole UK grooming gang. And I'll be doing a follow-up to that on Plunge Cast, which is where we do our news commentary and global news sort of stuff. And this is like, you know. And the only reason I mentioned this here, because they're attacking online freedom when it comes to art. Adults creating art for adults to purchase that has nothing to do with kids. And everybody who, you know, except for the degenerates, is against you know, harming kids, right? And we don't want to see. I don't even like to see children, even sometimes in games. It's just, you know, just the way. Unless it's got to do with like, hey, this is my childhood and so on. This character's childhood, so it's reference to what's going on. I've done, you know, and I don't, you know, even sometimes when I'm writing, I'm very freaking careful about what I include the young, you know, children and stuff like that in my stories. I mean, currently, you know, we started, you know, we got the webtoon. I got to put an upload of that up soon, so I might do a little another, you know, chapter work today on that. Well, upload, not a chapter, but a page upload, cut up as for webtoons. So, excuse me, kind of got like hiccups or something. Burps. So these, yeah, they don't really care. Honestly, they don't. They protect them most of the time because they're degenerates themselves sometimes, right, amongst themselves. You know, and we've seen that happen. It's not just, you know, in politics that they're degenerates. They're degenerates in a lot of things, and they do, you know, they harm kids all the time. And the worst is when they protect those people who do that. So this whole online law thing isn't about protecting kids or families. It's basically about taking your identification and tracking you, how you spend, and how you behave, and it's control. This is, and the reason the guy says it's China, I've been covering that on the other channel as well, because it is like China. Because nobody knows outside China what's going on. Like the Chinese don't know what's going on most of the time in their own country. Honestly, they don't. They have the Chinese firewall, right? which is this big, huge internet wall, firewall, if you understand, that blocks people from being able to see what is going on in the news in their own country. And if you report on something, you get in trouble, you get arrested, you get disappeared. Currently, there's been mass deaths happening because of flooding, and they won't let you, they won't talk about it, and they won't so this is coming this way. They won't, they won't let you post anything about it because they don't want the people to know what's happening down the country. They also, recently there's been flooding, dams and stuff in China, and bodies have been piling up, and they've only said, oh, there was only 5 or 6 people died. But now that the flooding's gone down, and even with other flooding going down, there's been so many other, mass deaths, but they've only said, oh, it's only a handful. It's all right. We took care of it. We looked after it. Trust your government. And when they say that, you got to go, well, why are they saying that, right? And this is why I'm really, this is what concerns me about this. It's like when they say, well, we're going to trust us, we're trying to protect the kids. I'm going, well, sorry, I don't think I want to trust you on this one. We've seen you during COVID, right? They always try to, governments have this weird way of, people get into government wanting to help people, then they end up wanting to control people. Because power corrupts, and absolute power, like they say, corrupts absolutely, right? And that's where, of course, that whole, back to comics, with power comes responsibility, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And a lot of times these politicians get paid to come up with these things. So you got to understand, make these laws, and you got to understand why are they making these laws all of a sudden? What's going on that's been so drastic? It's like, wait, don't we have laws already there? Yeah, we do. Then why are you making new laws? Well, because we want more control, right? Then who wants that much control? We do. We're the people in charge. So oh, wait. So now you're just like the people over in China, the CCP, right? The communists. So why are you bringing communism into the West and saying it's a good thing? Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of sad, that these people are doing that, right? And it's so the link's there for that reason, so that you guys can watch it later. Because I think I'd rather, keep us, doing artwork, right? Rather than watching that. But do please go check that out, because honestly, I feel like if we don't keep talking about it, if we don't keep it in the public eye, people will forget. And in darkness, more evil takes place in darkness, as they say. And these people are honestly, they're evil because they do not. When people want to control you, it comes from a place of care or concern, right? It's like it's like in relationships, when you see people being controlled by their partners and stuff, and you go, well, hey, that's not cool. Well, that's cool, but I love her. I'm watching her every move. Making sure she doesn't, or he, that's not always she, can be he as well. It goes both ways. So, and then you realize, yeah, but dude, that's a bit, it's weird, man. So it's weird when governments want to do the same thing as well, I guess. And it's the simplest way of saying that, right? I just realized something that is there. Because that's another color. All right. I'm just going to put that there and then figure out what I'm doing here. So, yeah. So let's go with that with the green. And complete that with the green. It's like so many lines. It's like so much details, right? And a lot of times, because how small it will, like you won't even notice, but still got to get those colors all in the right order. Otherwise, sometimes it might later on might look like a sore thumb, as they say, like sticking out, right? When you like hammer your thumb or your finger. Usually it's the thumb. I've done it a few times since my childhood. Hammer and nail. I forgot what I was going to, was it something I was going to look at earlier, and I forgot what I was going to look at. I hope it wasn't just that one. But let me get this done because I'm pretty close to getting this done, and I'll move over to the other one, done on cover. Because it's the aim to also do that cover, do a bit more on the zombie cover. Oops. Two. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say I was going to put some light in here. I mean, not light, some wall. Which is what it is, right? It's the wall from the other house. Oh no, it's the fence, sorry. Is it the fence? Yeah, it's the fence. Yeah. It does make a bit of difference, even though it's like really minor, right? Little bits, but just the separation of the colors gives it a natural, more of a natural look because you're doing that. Because you're allowing for that little bit of separation. Doesn't just look like a blob of color, right? The green just there. No, that song's Marigold. Did it to myself. So I've been I went back and finished off watching Denidan, which is that the manga anime that I talked about last couple of weeks back or last week, I can't remember. And man, it's good. It's an anime you can't. And I started reading some of the manga as well. It's an anime that you can't multitask on. Like, what I mean is that you can't be doing this and watching it at the same time, because there's so much going on. It's moving all the time, right? So because of that, if you need to concentrate on what's going on the screen, which is really cool, but it's also not cool because you can't multitask. You can't you can't color and try to watch the screen at the same. And try to listen in, but because there's so much happening on the screen, because it's very action packed. Inspect that grumbling. It's almost like when you hear it on the anime, they always have this this little stomach grumbling. If you watch enough, you know that there's it's almost like a trope. That someone's hungry, right? Some stomach grumbles on the anime or in the manga, which of course is then translated to the anime and sound and all that. One thing that's pretty cool is like watching a good translation. A good dubbing into English of Japanese. I've seen some terrible ones, right? But like just the emotion, good actors can really bring out the work that's been done by
by the writer, right? And you can see that the writer has spent a lot of time thinking about the words he's going to use. And I know not every writer does that, because I've seen some bad writing over the years, especially in comics, of how much time spent on the actual dialogue to portray, an emotion or the story to plot, whatever, to proceed. And so you can always tell if you're able to. I've been thinking about this with, because I don't watch Naruto, I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, right? These top tier, so-called top 1 and 2 most watched anime in the world, because of the generation, after me, right? Grew up with that. However, I don't. So I don't have a clue as to what that's really about, because it's not what I grew up with. And so, because I grew up with the classic animes, I have no idea what those animes are about. And to be honest, I don't care to, because there's so many older and newer animes around that I actually kind of enjoy it without having to go and watch these other ones, right? And the other thing is that I have my own taste in what I like to, what I think. Actually, I think I'm going to go through all the way down with the green here. Just realized something. That all that was just, that's what he did. I was like, it doesn't look like he separated. That's why there's no line there. Now you can see that there was no reason for me to change the colors over there, right? But here I can. So I can go down here and go there, there, and get rid of this. Yeah, that's it. That's the right one. And yeah. I think this is. I kind of wonder if people writers and indie comics are treating comics as art, or they're just treating it as just another medium, right? Because when it comes to comics, for me, I don't just see it as another medium. I see it as an important part of my life, and as an important part of the overall human creativity, right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was just trying to see where the separation between the gray and this light sort of dark beige works or doesn't work. Am I doing it right there or not? So I think, and I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, do people see comics when they're creating it in the indie sphere, and also in the mainstream? Do they just see it as another product, or they see it as they're creating art, right? Like, do they see it as a major work that they that they are working on? That's an important piece of literature and art joined in one, because comics has a special literature and art, right? Which sets it apart from any other medium, because it's this, and even like art books, it sets it apart. Not art books, picture books, right? Like what they call light novels, where there's an image on one page, like a drawing on one page, and there's a small, a page with text on the other page, right? So, do creators see themselves creating art, or is it just what everybody else in the world thinks it is, which is that it's just another kid's book, right? And I don't mean like as a kid's book, because a lot of us do adult comics, right? Mature comics. But I mean the idea that it's just a cheap newspaper reading thing that you just throw away after you read it. And it's something that I think I've kind of thought, because I know when I'm talking with my team, I say we are creating art together. This is not just something I take lightly, just another product to put out in front of people to earn some money off. Because really, none of us we aren't really, and the indies aren't really earning any money off this stuff. I think the only ones who are earning is the ones who are stealing and defrauding people, or making a living, right? Because they're not actually putting out anything. They're just taking people's money and running off with it. So, do people out there take it seriously as an art form, like a sculpture? So if I'm doing a sculpture, with my ceramics, I take that very seriously. Whatever I'm doing with that, I take it as this is a serious piece of art that someone's going to pay for, and therefore it has to be right. It has to be, it has to look good. It has to be as perfect as I can finish making it look. It's not machined. It's that's wrong. It's not, it's not done by some AI or something, but it's done by me, right? So it represents who I am at this moment, at my level of skill. And I'm always trying to get better, right? And I'm always working towards that, so that that what I did before, 5 years ago, isn't the same as what I'm doing now, because my skills levels have gotten better, what have you. But because because I'm not the artist, I don't have to worry about the art side of that. But my writing, my stories have to be better, right? And in the world that they are, everything has to be the way it needs to be in that world, in its proper place. Otherwise, it will turn into a mess, and people will go, "Oh, there's no chronology to this. And why did this happen here when this happened there?" And so you're always trying to I always want to, I always take it seriously. To me, it's not like throwaway stuff. It's very important to me that I'm creating this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it, right? There's so many more things I can do with my life, right? Than create comic books. But I've always, actually, I lost this degree on it. Yeah, it's there. It's not there. I kind of think that a lot of people aren't really serious. It almost feels like that. That people, and I know when people aren't serious, you can tell. It's when they don't take criticism, right? And I don't mean like people just try and say, oh, you know, this and that to put them down. No, but legit, you know, hey, this is a critique. This is what you can fix here. Maybe have a look at this. Maybe look at that. And when they're not serious, when they don't, you know, about getting better, because as an artist, I always want to get better, right? I want to learn about how to use my tools better. You know, when it comes to ceramics, I make my own tools that I can use. You know, I talk about carving tools, and I design, because I'm making my own tools. I design it in a way so that, like, you know, they are. Actually, I just realized all this here is supposed to be green. Well, actually, no, not green. This background. So let's fix this. And so, at the end of the day, you know, we're here wanting to, you know, put out stuff that's actually going to be, well, I know I am, that's going to be around for a long time, that hopefully will be in print for a long time, you know, released over and over again, hopefully, so that people can enjoy long after I'm gone. You know, and there's something I can be remembered for, and my artists can be remembered for, as having put out really good work. This way, I think I kind of wonder if people really take this medium as seriously as they should. Or maybe if they don't want to take it seriously, maybe they shouldn't be doing it. You know, maybe do something else. Because, you know, like the thing is, like, everybody, there's this whole saying where everybody has a story in them, right? Has a book in them. But not everybody needs to write that book. And always to tell their story. But if there's a story that you are passionate about, then you got to put your 100% into that. Otherwise, what are you doing? You know. For me, you know, I want to keep learning. I want to get better. That's why I watch a lot of anime, you know, because of the and, you know, manga and stuff, because it's a different medium from the one that I'm actually working on, and that allows me to see the, you know, the art from another viewpoint, and that can answer a lot of, you know, they might actually help me with some problems I might have trying to how to orchestrate a outline or orchestrate a story that I didn't think about doing in a certain way, you know, because I didn't, you know, because I hadn't thought about it that way. And that's the thing, I think, that looking outside of the medium that you're working in, or that, you know, I guess this is why, like, a lot of metalheads, right, as we call them, metal musicians, right, metal bands, actually listen to classic, or you know, or pop music, or rap, or something different, because they realize that if you listen to the same thing over and over again, what it does to you is makes you jaded, and you end up not, you know, your music starts sounding the same way over and over again, you know, and doesn't become innovative, or it's just the same thing, right? And after a while, it just becomes boring. Now, the reason I put that there, because I needed a line to know where I was. I needed to do this change of these color groupings here. So, yeah, so it's important sometimes to actually look outside of what you're, you know, outside of what you're used to, and that can actually help, well, not answer, but work out problems that you might have, that you get stuck in. And I'm not trying to say that, anime is the only thing, but there's like live action storybooks, movies, that can really become inspirational and helpful when you're trying to learn to be better at your own, at your own art. Because you always got to keep learning, otherwise, you stagnate. As us artists that, we kind of talk about these things a lot. Like sometimes you just become stagnant in your creativity, and once you get that way, if you don't get out of it, you end up like really boring people with what you're doing. And not only that, you bore yourself, and then you end up having writer's block. That's what I always like to say about, like, if you're out here, wanting to be creative, get inspiration from other places rather than just in what you're working in. I think a lot of times we undersell ourselves as well by not undersell. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it, but yeah, we stop ourselves from getting better by not wanting to learn more, by not putting time into learning a little more, or spending time, just taking time away from what we're doing just to learn something else. That's why I thought I want, when I learned about, like I mentioned about gaming, right, visual novels, and how that worked, I was like very interested in helping other people who needed help writing and editing their stories, and stepping in to volunteer my services so I could, while I did that, I could learn from them this new thing that I've just discovered, right? Which has been around for years. But for me, it was new to me. Now, we're coming up to 2 hours, so I'm supposed to be working on the zombie thing, but I think that's all I can handle for today. I didn't expect to be talking on this, just be working for this whole thing called that. But I think what I'll do is I will actually finish this little bit, and we'll finish up on here. But I do suggest, if you want to write, if you want to tell a story, do read a lot, and do watch a lot of other people that you enjoy, who, whose works you enjoy, right? It might not even be the same genre that you want to write in, or write about, all right? It might be sci-fi, but it's all the story, the idea of story can, you can write in any genre the same thing. It's just how you orchestrate that story, right? How you put together the plot or the setting. Like you could write a story about two people in love and set it up in space, easy. Or you could, you can do the same thing and put it in the West, Wild West, just with a slight change of story, slight change of ideas, or plot, or what characters you decide to use, right? Just changing the names or place names, or settings of the time and stuff like that. I love genre, writing in genre, because it means that I can write, tell a story in any genre I can choose, right? And so that's what I do. Doesn't matter, and that's basically allowed me to, write for whatever and whoever, whenever, and work with whoever in whatever genre they're writing in, right? It looks like this new game I'll be working on, co-writing, might be sci-fi. However, if I go, well, I only write action heroes and all this, I don't know how to write that. Well, that means I don't get to write that, right? So I basically limited myself. However, because I don't limit myself, I can write in any genre, even history. I've actually tried my hand at history, so I haven't finished the work yet, so I can't say I've done it. But I'm actually, there's a story I wrote called Gurmit, which is based around Fiji history and about how the first Indians arrived, migrants arrived in Fiji. Way back in 1885. So I did the first volume, well, what I call the first volume, so first issue, and then I haven't touched it for probably about 10 years now. I'll get around to it soon, in time. But until then, I'm going to carry on working with this 6 or 7 that we're working on now. I always forget if it's 6 or 7. And so, well, I think there's 8, maybe, all up that we're working on at the moment. Once these are finished, we're going to be releasing them all together. So hopefully, it'll save a lot of people money. All our backers will get to save probably about $100, depending if that's what if they wanted to back all our books, they'll be saving about $100 on freight just by backing, our book, our lot of books over anybody else's. You'd actually be saving on freight, right? Which is something, something a lot of people have talked about. The crowdfunding, the cost of freight is really stopping a lot of people from backing, crowdfunding because of the cost of how expensive it is to get a book over to, sometimes it's actually twice the amount just for freight compared to what the cost of the book is. And a lot of people, won't back based on the fact that it's so expensive just for because it's cost too much to for the freight, which kind of sucks. I mean, like, especially if you're a creator, you do the work, and the next thing you know, people want to buy your book, but they won't buy your book because it's too expensive to get them to their country, which kind of sucks, to be honest. Really, it's sucky. As a creator and as someone who wants to support other creators, right? So that's why we thought, like, okay, the best thing to do was like really try to help our backers by actually releasing a whole bunch of books at the same time in a package deal, so that by doing that, we can actually get more books out, but also have our backers, actually save money by backing us more. And I've been really, really, really thinking about that for this past year since we put out Incredible, right? And got it to our backers. It's like, something's got to change here, we got to somehow work out in a way, do something that's going to support both us and have backers get support as well. Like, get a good deal, right? It's something, almost messed it up. Something that, as a salesperson, like I said, and in business, right, having been in that, on both sides of this, should be there. This should be here. Because really, at the end of the day, you want to have a good relationship with your supporters, right? Who are backing you financially, because really, you want them for the long haul, right? You want them to support you forever, as long as they're around to support you, right? And you want to be able to also have a good relationship with them by supporting them and, by trying to save them money, because that's good business, right? It's good business that you're happy and the customer's happy. And I think that's one thing that, getting back to crowdfunding, there's a lot of unhappy customers, right, in crowdfunding. And the bait and switch, right, is what's killing, it's what's happening, what's adding to the, I should say, what's bait and switch in crowdfunding is what's kind of like killing, what's helping to ruin crowdfunding. And what do I mean by that, apart from what I've been saying to us across this last 2 hours? That is when what you expect to get isn't what you expect to get, because the person who put the crowdfund together, or or what have you, didn't think through the process of the cost, didn't go and ask people for information, or didn't ask printers how much it's going to cost, didn't work like with us. I think with my big head, I undersold ourselves on how much it was going to cost for freight costs, which meant we had to pay out of our own pocket for freight a lot. But in the long run, I think we were saved by the fact that most of the crowdfund, most of the freight, most of the comments were actually backed by Americans, right? Because the freight costs were so low. And hopefully, by doing what we're going to be doing, which is, putting out 8 comics, or at least being able to put out 8 comics in a single Gemini, with 6, which allows for people to get a couple. That's a good color for that. Yeah, to get 8 books freighted for them for a single, maybe $25 for freight costs. So what that means is that, say, if you bought a book for about $10 from us, it'll be $35, right? However, was that that $25 extra, right, for freight could be divided between 8 books. So you're basically, let me see, off the top of my head, the cost of that freight cost would be basically $2 a book, right? Just a bit more, maybe $2.50 a book for freight. I mean, isn't that a good deal? If you really think about it, you're not paying, you know, $20 every single, and I'm talking about, this is like for the, you know, outside the US, right? Because it's expensive outside the US, as I mentioned. So as an outside US backer, you're just paying $2 extra for freight rather than paying $20 every single time you want to back one of our books. Well, hopefully you do. And if you do back up books, you know, that we're just saving you money as a, you know, as a business partner with you. I guess in a sense that you're partnering with us to support us to make this all work, and we're gonna, you know, return that by helping you save money rather than waste money on freight, right? Of course, you can say, well, I don't even have to support you, and I'll save money. But we're creating, you know, we're creating art, and it'll be great to, you know, have your support and us create, you know, myself, my team, and, you know, all of us working hard to put out a good product. Also, to put out a good piece of art that hopefully will live on past our lifetime. Hopefully, you know, will continue being printed and in the public eye, to be enjoyed by generations to come, hopefully. And that's the whole, you know, that's the whole reason for me is like, let's hope that we're, you know, this sort of what we're doing lasts longer than what is just now, right? Okay, almost done here with this. I didn't think about putting this kind of like a real dark beige on this, but it's actually quite the right tone, right sort of color for this. I was going to go lighter like this, but like it's better dark because that's what it looks like on those trees. I think it's for the palm tree, but I might be wrong. It's basically just a palm tree, or type of palm tree. I actually might go look it up later and see if I can plant that one that I was talking about really wrong, about this one here, right? The one that I have a seed of. That I basically picked off the ground to bring home to plant. Okay. Should say gray going. So as we finish off here, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for these past 2 hours and a bit and chilling. Hopefully, you know, wasn't too serious. You know, these, I kind of don't want to make these streams serious, right? I just want to hang out and do some work, and then we can, you know, then I can go chill out, have something to eat, and then come back and work some more, and carry on doing work. Either or, you know. I hope you guys are well wherever you are. That I'm looking at the screen on the in front of me on the TV, right, on the 43-inch, and it looks so. This whole blue sky looks like kind of more aqua, like it's just lighter, whereas in front of me it looks more sky. So it's weird color. This is the thing about monitors, right? You can never sort of. You got to always do a color collaboration. Collaboration. Yeah. Collaborate. Collaborate. Something like that. Anyway, you know what I mean. Hopefully. Right. So as we finish up here, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys hanging out for these chill streams. Hopefully. A little bit more, and I'll finish up with this a little bit here. Actually, maybe I'll be able to do it. No, I won't be able to do it that way. Or will I be able to do it this way? No, I won't be able to do it that way. Okay, let's just try this. Go in. Didn't what I did was mean. Didn't do it. Okay. So what I did there, what I wanted to do there was not to have the same tone and go like. Look a bit better when he goes to, when Tomas goes to color that in. Not Tomas, sorry. Louise goes to color that in. You can blend it in a bit more, but like, just felt like it needed to be a bit. Actually, there we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Hold on. Yeah. There, let's try that. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, is there any more? I think there's, I know I've got to get the card, but just the wall. That's what that is. That is the wall. And I might make it that color. And you know, I might make that color. Go back. Let's go. There, that stands out a bit more. Of course, concrete. Hurry the hell up. Get this all done. Boom, boom. Dark gray for the concrete floor. Yep. Keep thinking I'm like almost done here, and I'm thinking I'm not almost done here. Little fiddly bits, right? I'll go over there and get rid of all these whites and stuff like that. Little, right? Just do. Yeah, but I colored it. Okay. That. Let's do document. I don't know later. Yeah. Sky, reverse, let's look at sky. Right. Look back. Go with that. This is what what's that? You can never tell, right? What you want to represent. That's the sky. Whether it's going to be dark or it's going to be light, but it's on the way. So there's that. Okay, so that's done. Okay, finish this. You can do it. I always said goodbye like 15 minutes ago, but I'm here trying to finish this. So I need to do it as fast as we can. Get out of here, right? Okay. Okay, so now green. Where's my grass green? Okay. There. Let's go here. What I mean by that is like I needed a fence line to change the color. Of course, Louise is going to probably, fix this. I mean, do this a little bit, but to make that work. But for the rendering, I just want to make sure that I'm giving him enough. What I'm going to be, what I want to. Nope, it's this one. Come back here. Where's my fence? Buzzing around. Come back. Finish this off. That is it. No more. Well, no more live stream, but like I'm going to for today. I will, however, catch you guys on the next one as I carry on with this. I'm going to go take a break, get some food. I need to go up the road to the shop. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Wherever you are. Be loyal to the Monkey King. Bye for now.
Nope, 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 nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.